All right, we'll go, everybody good? Are you good, Dave? All right. We'll go and start tonight's work session, 5:05 PM. All council members are present. We'll move now, back into public comment. Does anybody here wish to address council at this time regarding the agenda items? Okay, we'll get right into it. We'll move into action item number 1, Conventions and Visitors Bureau.
Mayor,
Yeah.
I think someone did want to speak.
I'm just asking, is it all-inclusive agenda items, or are you going to take them one by one?
We're going.
We need to know if we wanted to speak on any of these agenda items. I'm sorry, Nate.
You do? Yeah, come on up. Do you have a sheet? Do you mind after you get done just filling out that sheet just so we have for record purposes? I know who you are, but just to help Miss Bailey out with letter to the record. Okay.
Well, my name's Mickey Eldridge, and thank you so much for letting me have a few minutes to speak to you.
All right, well, we're going to call this to order. Do we have
you.
any public comments?
It's this right here.
Oh, moving right along, okay.
That's the same thing that happened
You guys reviewed
last
the minutes from last time?
Just turn it. Yeah, a little bit.
Sorry, Mickey.
Way to go, Michael. I'm a resident of Cumberland County for about 45 years, and my interest tonight is in the possible discussion of ambulance service. The first thing I wanted to do is just tell you how much I appreciate that the council is still open about this issue, still discussing this issue, and wanting to make headway where the community is concerned. I support, through my tax dollars, both all of the county services that we have in this community and the city services that we have. But I'm one of your taxpayers that's very interested in having taxes put toward an ambulance service with the city fire department. There's 2 reasons that I'm really interested. One is because as a individual who has used our hospital, the emergency rooms, and has had to have ambulance service, I am grateful every time our county ambulance service shows up. They're working hard. I have no complaints about the county ambulance service. I appreciate them. I'm grateful for them. But it's obvious, and I'm one of your taxpayers that can tell you of incidents that have happened just to me and my family, that it was a crucial issue that the ambulance service was inadequate, not from personnel standpoint, but from availability standpoint. My husband, John, had a heart attack and had to go to Cumberland Medical Center, and this was a few years ago. Time was of the essence. His enzymes were climbing, and they had to get him out of here because they told us they couldn't do anything about it at Cumberland Medical Center, and we understood that. But they said, we've got to get him somewhere, and we need to get him to Cookeville first because it's closer than Knoxville. The time matters. And so we were heading to Cookeville, and the ambulance broke down on the interstate. They had to find another ambulance to come and get him, change him out on the side of the interstate, and get him on to Cookeville. That was traumatizing. It was so scary to think that he might not make it. And when we got to Cookeville, they couldn't even discuss his case with me. They had to get him into the surgery room. 45 minutes later, they came back out with him and said he's fixed, but he almost didn't get here. He almost didn't make it. It was in his widowmaker, and you were almost a widow. And within that moment, I knew that it was so crucial that the ambulance got him there when it did. And so fast forward, I have a mother-in-law that's in her 90s, and not once but twice she has fallen and broken hips and arms and 3 bones the last time she fell and broke her hip replacement. But for a 90-something-year-old little old frail woman to be laying on a gurney in the ER for 2 days is unacceptable. She was shaking violently. She was in pain. A Knoxville hospital had a surgeon waiting on her. They had a room waiting on her, but there was no ambulance available to get her out of town and get her there. And so it was something that mattered greatly to our family that... Do I need to quit?
It's okay. I'll give you one more minute.
It was important to our family that we needed an ambulance to get her there. The same thing happened with my brother-in-law when he was brought from the nursing home to Cumberland Medical Center and needed to go about a mile across the street, and it took him a day and a night to get him back over there because of the availability. I have a good friend who had 2 strokes recently, and I was in the room with her at 4 o'clock when they said, we've got to get her out of here. There's a surgeon in Knoxville waiting to see her. We've got to get her up there. They've got a room. And 7 hours later, we were still sitting in the parking lot waiting for an ambulance to get her out of town. That's unacceptable to me, and I'm not blaming our county service. I'm saying we need more ambulances. So if you look at the fact that Cumberland Good Samaritans, and Mike Turner has been on the board there for about 30-something years, and Mike brought this to us as the fire chief in Cumberland, in Crossville, years ago. And for years, our scholarship program has been funding the needs of firefighters to become paramedics. I don't know if y'all knew we were doing that or not, but you've got a lot of firefighters that are paramedics, and we've got 4 more that we're fixing to meet with right now to help get through paramedic school. Because, as Mike told us many times, every minute matters when you're in trauma situations. And so we were glad to be able to support that, and my board of directors is certainly in support of this project. Mike had already brought that to the table, but I will say I went to Dr. Mark Fox as a friend long before he ever ran for city council to beg him to help come up with a solution because of the need in saving lives and dealing with trauma. And so to Dr. Fox, thank you, Mark, that on the city council you have taken this up and you're still very concerned about doing something about it. I've talked to James Mayberry at great length months ago about this and urged him to help support this. And each one of you, as I've worked on this project for the last couple of years, I just feel like it's a big deal to our community. I've supported every project that I can think of around here, including this wonderful thing that's being built across the street, our aquatic center. I'm glad for you to use my tax dollars for that. I just don't understand, if we're proud of a sheriff's department and a police department, county fire and city fire, if we're proud of our county and city codes department and all of our other county and city services, why can't we be just as proud that this community has a county ambulance service and a city ambulance service when the majority of the calls come from within the city? I just think that we need it, and if you had a lot of other people in this community coming to this podium, their stories would be just like mine. If it was your mother, if it was your husband or your wife, if it was your brother, if it was your friend laying somewhere waiting hours or days or all night and the next day to get 45 minutes up the road, I think it would matter to you, and it does to me, and that's why I'm involved in this. It's not about creating a stink between county or city ambulance services or firefighting services. It truly is about needing more ambulances on the ground in Crossville. I think you guys could work really hard together to figure out how we can fund this. I'm glad for you to use my tax dollars to do it. I think minutes do matter when you're trying to save lives. My loved ones matter, and I'm sure yours do too. This community matters. It's an aging community. There's a lot of calls, large area. There's just no reason for us not to get ahead of this, and I hope that y'all will truly consider doing this, especially in light of possible studies and legislation that might set us up that we could wind up having to reimburse the county if that legislation goes through. I'd rather $2 or $3 million of my city tax dollars be used to create a really good city ambulance service within the fire department that's already got personnel trained as paramedics, and we're going to continue to support that at Good Samaritans. We just support this community, and I appreciate Mike bringing that to the forefront and asking us to get involved in that. I appreciate Mark Fox as a doctor saying, of course, it matters, and it matters as a city councilman. And I know it matters to the rest of you. I'm not saying it. I know it matters to every single one of you. I just want you to know it matters to me as a taxpayer. We need city ambulance service badly. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to address council? Okay. Let's move into action item number 1, Conventions and Visitors Bureau. Is this a council appointment or a mayor appointment? I didn't see that in there.
It's council.
Council appointment, all right. Two positions are up. Mr. Ethan Medley wishes to serve in his position, and we need to fill one position. Mr. Asa Reese does not wish to continue in that position. So between now and next week, if you can make sure you have names ready to fill that second spot. Looks like Ethan's willing to do that. Let's make sure that we do that, unless you all have names now that you wish for us to put on the list. Is there any from you that you can think of or wish, or anyone said anything to you, Chamber President? Anybody? Has there been any?
We have Jonathan full slots.
Okay, all right, very good.
Where's the list at? Is it on?
It's in here. It's city does it, county does it, and chamber does it. Correct. It's on the second. It's the second.
Okay. I'm a little
So.
frantic, enabled.
Okay. All right. We'll add that to the agenda, and we'll move on to the second one. This is the tree board. Two positions need to be filled. The two people filling it wish to continue. This is a mayoral appointment, so you can see where I'll be doing. I'll make sure that I reappoint them. We'll add that to the agenda. Moving on to the next one, action item number 3, approval of temporary street closure for Veterans Day Parade. So we have a request from Terry Mitchell with the Crossville Veterans Parade Committee asking for street closure on Saturday, November 8th at 9 a.m. until the parade of the Veterans Day Parade is over. It'll follow the same route that it's followed, I think, as of last year when we made some updates from CCHS, and they'll end on Main Street Church of Christ. Can you all take a look at that map? Can you all see that? It's the updated but modified one that we did, right? So we approved this last year, and it looks like they wish to do that exact same route. So any questions or comments, any feedback that you have to the city clerk? Okay.
The date of that parade?
Saturday, November 8th, starts at 9 a.m.
November 8th.
Okay, we'll add that to the list, the agenda. Moving on to number 4, approval of annexation resolution and plan of services for 1357 Cook Road. If you all remember, we had annexed a large section over there, and then there was this little spot that we said would probably be coming back a month later, as it has, to annex the rest of that there right on Cook Road. Do you see what I'm talking about? Planning Commission approved moving forward with the plan of services and annexation, and I know myself and Mayor Mayberry, Councilman Mayberry serve on that. Do you have any comments, or, I mean, it's pretty clean cut, yeah?
Pretty much a no-brainer.
Okay. Any questions or comments to me or to Councilman Mayberry, serve on the Planning Commission? Okay. We'll add that on the agenda. Next up, approval of Old Kentucky Stock Road Waterline Extension. Give me a second here.
It's in the north end. It's outside the city limits.
All right. So the property owner at the end of Old Kentucky Stock Road has requested a water line extension. The property owner is planning to build 2 houses on that property. The existing water line is approximately 460 feet from their property line. A 2-inch water line is being proposed by the city and Catoosa utility departments. An estimated cost of the extension is just over $6,800. Since this is located outside the city of Crossville, ordinance for mainline extension states that the total cost of the extension would be the responsibility of the property owner requesting the extension. The requester may pay the city to install the line, or a financial guarantee may be provided to install the line themselves, or hire someone to do it per city specification. If the latter of that is chosen, then the amount of the financial guarantee would cost the estimate plus 10% and would expire within a year. Easements will be required. If the property owner cannot obtain the easements, then the city will obtain them. If the city must obtain the easements, there will be a fee of $4,000 to obtain those easements. And it was approved in the Crossville Regional Planning Commission to move forward with the water line extension. Any questions, comments, concerns? Again,
Have we had an update as for the easements, if it's got it? As I recall, I think it was kind of almost landlocked.
yeah, I never heard anything
anything?
back from Kevin on that.
I did not either. Tim, do you have an update?
Okay. And the property owner / contractor is aware of that, whoever's in the plan, okay. All right, so it sounds like we're good on that.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments from council? If not, we'll add that to the agenda. We're on to number 6, approval of sewer line extension to 794 Genesis Road. The owner of the property has requested a sewer line extension. There is a developer that is wishing to purchase the property for the purpose of constructing multi-family apartments. City staff is proposing a lower pressure sewer line installation instead of continuing the gravity one. The total extension will be approximately 480 feet of 2-inch low pressure sewer line under the main line extension ordinance. The property owner, developer of the multifamily development would be responsible for the total cost of the sewer line extension. Cost estimate is just over $5,700. The developer may pay the city for the install the line themselves, or hire someone to install the line. Again, the financial guarantee of the amount estimate plus 10% would be needed to provide to the city. If the work is not completed by the city, the financial guarantee would expire within a year. Easements may need to be acquired for the sewer line extension if the developer cannot obtain. The city must obtain them, then the developer will pay the city $3,442 for the easements. Again, from the Planning Commission, the recommendation was to approve this extension. And just in the same vein, do we know anything more about the easements?
We're not aware of the other utilities that are in the area, so we can't say whether they're on private property or not. So we don't know for sure if it's the,
But that'll be worked out.
that'll be worked out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else you want to add there, Councilman? Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, then we'll add that onto the agenda as well. Moving on to action item number 7, discussion of spec building bid. So bids will be received now on June 6th for the spec building. And I think next week's meeting, you'll have.
We'll have a recommendation at the meeting. It might not be available by the time that you get your agenda and your packet, but we will have it at the meeting.
Okay. And this has been extended?
Yes, May 30th was the original date, and it was extended due to some questions by the contractors.
Council, if that's why we don't have anything and why we'll know next week is because of that. So initially it was the 30th, but we needed to punt to the 6th to give time. So any questions or comments that you all have? I know that'll be coming from you, right, Tim, or someone from your department to give recommendations? Okay. So do you have any questions or thoughts that you want to relay to Tim before we move on? If not, I'll go ahead and add that onto the agenda. Okay. All right, moving on to action item number 8, approval of Crab Orchard Pump Station property acquisition. So obviously, we're going to have the city attorney be involved in negotiations in regards to this, but so from the engineering department, they're requesting the Crab Orchard Pump Station property acquisition. This will be for real property and will not exceed the amount of the appraisal plus 10%. What we're seeking out, because you don't know what that number is going to be, is that we give approval for the city attorney to negotiate terms for the request and then come back to council for approval. So do you have any comments or thoughts or things that you wish to relay on to the city attorney? Okay.
Now, probably by the water authority. So, again, so follow up with the water authority on that.
Oh, the water authority. I
Okay.
thought you said Bow Water.
So for the Cumberland Plateau Water Authority, excuse me, Crab Orchard no longer is in existence as of what, last Monday? Yeah. So, all right. So we'll put that on the agenda for that. Okay. Number 9, award bid for Highway 70 North Master Meter. Again, this is coming from the engineering department.
And
So-
also TDOT will be reimbursing us for this project.
It's a TDOT reimbursed project.
Yes. It's related to the bridge project on Highway 70.
Yeah. And so, again, bids were received for this project on May 20th. Certified bid tabulation is attached. I think can you all access Granicus? You can see that there were 2 people that submitted. one of the people that submitted did not finish their last project with the city. That was contracted with them. 8 months after that contract completion date, the city verbally notified that group, or was notified by that group they could not complete the project. And so it is my belief that we need to go with the one that we've not had issues with, even though it may not be the lowest bid. So I didn't know if there's any comments or discussions. If not, I think that would be the best way to move forward. And if that's the case, then we'll put that on the consent agenda to move forward with. It may be the higher bidder, but the bidder we've not had issues with. Okay, we'll add that on there. Moving on to number 10, approval of transfer of property to the Sports Authority. So I was in the Sports Authority meeting this morning. It looks like they're going to be kosher with this suggestion, but there's 2 slivers of property. One you can see very apparent. It's out there on Main Street where they have dug up that triangle section there right next to the Church of Christ, between where North Main Street and Livingston Road is there, where we currently at. Well, we had the sign, right? We had the proposed sign. And then there's a little sliver on Key Street, which is pretty much the corner of Key Street and Livingston. There's a little small sliver that we'll also have to give them, and that's what part of our right-of-way. Is that what it was, pretty much? Yeah. And so I think it's pretty simple. We'll give that to them, and it sounds like today in their meeting that they were open to doing that. So is there any questions or concerns from council in transferring those 2 tracks over to the Sports Authority? All right, we'll add that onto the agenda then. All right, next up is number...
Wait, time out.
Sure.
Your triangle, is the road not going to be in that triangle? Is it not going to become more perpendicular and less of an angle when it gets done?
Yes, it is. And we'll probably
So
be
that
back in
road-
front of you 2 more times and in front of the planning commission once.
Okay.
Once this is donated, there'll be a plat created, and it will show the closing of the old right-of-way where the road was and the new right-of-way. And the city and the chairman of the Sports Authority will have to sign the plat. It'll have to be approved through the planning commission. There'll have to be 2 variances, I believe. One for a financial guarantee, because I think we can trust ourselves. And the other variance would be that the property pins are not set, because those won't be set until after the construction, so they're not torn out.
Okay. Simple enough.
Okay. All right, where am I at here? Number 11, approval of change order number 2 for I&I projects.
It's a deduct.
What?
It's a deduct and an extension of the contract by 70 days.
So you're saying it'll be a price decrease?
Yes.
And it'll be done faster?
No,
Oh,
longer.
shucks. It's like, wow. Okay, just giving you a hard time. I think, council, you'd be more than happy to get that money back, I think? Okay, all right, I didn't know. All right. We'll add that to the agenda. Next up, discussion and action regarding an ambulance service. I'm assuming that this is coming from you, so the floor is yours.
It is, yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This subject has been talked about a great deal. Been a lot of information provided. I think the council members received a initiation pro forma sort of an action plan for implementation of this. So I don't know what other points to cover. My motive for having it on the agenda today was for any other discussion and to ask that it be moved to next week's voting session, just to go ahead and make a decision on this. As you said last week, Mayor, I'll paraphrase you, do something or not.
So you're looking at potentially proposing to establish an ambulance service by July 1st, 2026?
On or about July 1st, 2026.
Okay. Any other comments or discussions from council?
Yes, I have some comments, Mayor.
Floor is yours, bud.
Thank you, Mickey, for your good information. I am as a 44-year firefighter, 44 years of my life, I'm very responsive to this matter. Very responsive. I think if it comes to fruition that both could complement each other, just like the city and county fire department complements each other, our rescue squad, and all of our first responders. But, well, I don't have the answer yet, and I don't think we know how much it's going to cost. Chief South has gave us good information, Mark Fox has gave us good information. How is the city going to, as a city councilman, I have to think, I want to be optimistic, but you have to think realistically too. How are we going to pay for this? It's like Congress has said in the past, let's pass the bill, then we'll read it. That's not the way we need to operate. I don't know if the city has ever passed anything without knowing how it's going to be paid for. If anybody can correct me on that, I would be glad to be corrected. Do we raise sales tax? Do we go into a rainy day fund? Do we raise property tax? I was asked years ago, would you ever be for raising property taxes if you was an elected official? Well, I said, that's when I was fire chief. No, if they give me my medicine a little bit at a time, not all at once, and that could be done. It's realistic. Or could we finance it? Those are the questions I would like to be answered. How are we going to pay for it? Like I said, I'm very responsive to it. Our EMS service is excellent. I praise them all the time. They're just like any other service in the state of Tennessee, across the nation. They get swamped. 3 weeks ago, I was listening to the calls, and the city had 3 medical first responder calls in 2 minutes of each other. Could the city sometimes run out of ambulances? Of course. That's being realistic. Like you said, this is an aging community. And I'm one of them, the senior citizens. So I just think that both services, if it comes to be true, could complement each other and be good partners. And the main thing that we're talking about is lives. That's our main thing, is saving lives. And I know our EMS has saved lives, our firefighters, our police, our first responders, our police, rescue squad. We have some of the best trained people here in the country. Like I said, when I went to Mickey years ago, when we wanted to start the first responder program, it was just a little dream, and it came to be. Our first call was at Kroger's. I remember it distinctly. Someone had a seizure, and I asked Mickey if they could help our firefighters go to school to be a paramedic, and she jumped right on it. The Good Samaritans jumped right on that and paid for their schooling, and now I think every Crossville firefighter is either a paramedic or advanced EMT. Is that true, Chief? Okay. And if this comes to be real, the firefighters would be cross-trained. It would be firefighter, paramedic, EMTs. And they would all be cross-trained. And just because you're on the ambulance don't mean you're not going to fight a fire. Chief would take care of all that. So that's all I got to say, Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else?
If I could, I would like to yield my time to the current medical director. Would you like to come address the council, sir?
They do that in Washington. Hey, they get Nikki to sign that. Hey there.
Apologize for being late.
Do you mind just stating your name, and then after you do so, we have just a form that you'll fill out for the city clerk, just so we can capture your data for the record, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, just so. All right, the floor is yours, sir.
My name is Jim Wojak. I'm the current medical director for our local emergency personnel, city fire and EMS. I appreciate Mayor Crawford and the rest of the city council's opportunity to talk with you today. I'm here to talk about medical issues, and Chris Miller, the current director of EMS, is going to here to answer any questions, about operational procedures with the EMS. Before I start, I guess I probably had to give you a little background as to how I got into medicine. I went to medical school at ETSU, and after graduation, I did residency in internal medicine at UT. When I was, excuse me, I decided midway through my career in residency that I wanted to do emergency medicine, so I took my 6 or 7 months of optional electives in things like obstetrics and pediatric so that I could be a competent emergency physician. So I got board certified in internal medicine, similar to many physicians here in town like Kim Peasley, Beth Patty, Mark Lee. We all kind of have the same certifications. After graduation from residency, I got offered a job at Erlanger Medical Center. As you probably all know, it's a level 1 trauma center in Chattanooga. I worked there for 15 years or so, and then got a good offer here at CMC. So I moved to the city in 2003, and I worked as an emergency physician at CMC till late 2019. During that time, while I was practicing in the emergency department, we had some issues with some of the quality of care with some of our EMS personnel. And we had, myself and my colleagues had addressed the issue to the current, or to the then director, who didn't seem to really pay much attention to that. Lo and behold, later on, I would come to find out that during that time, the EMS was on the verge of losing their accreditation with the state. So that's when Paramedic Miller was given the opportunity to become the director. Since that time, I guess that's probably been about 10 years ago, EMS has done remarkably well. In fact, in the last 5 years, EMS has gotten 2 Star of Life awards from the state for excellent medical care, and 2 Life Achievement Awards from East Tennessee Children's for pediatric care. We strive to provide a lot of continuing medical education. And I've got a list here that I'll give out. These are the state requirements.
Thank you.
And you can see, this is usually state mandated requirements for 2 years. Take, for example, a critical care paramedic. The state requires them to have 42 hours of CME every 2 years. I'd like to point out that last year in 2024, we offered almost 300 hours of continuing education through our EMS. Some of it was in-house, but many lectures were conducted by UT, by Vanderbilt, Erlanger Life Force, East Tennessee Children's, and others. And this is, I'm going to hand out a list of the CME hours that we offered in 2024. I'm proud to say that, and I can verify this, every one of our personnel with CCEMS has obtained over 100 hours of CME in 2024, and some have gotten up to 140 to 150 hours. So we're trying to stay well ahead of the game. In 2025, we've already we have already had 46 hours of CME in 2025, and probably by the time the year's over, we'll have over 100 hours. So I guess in sum, our personnel stay well trained. We try to keep up with the latest equipment, new medications, new protocols, and every one of our, at least EMS people, are active and staying current and well trained. Do you have any questions?
Councilman Mayor, since you brought him up, do you have questions?
Who all is invited to all these training courses?
Of course, all the EMS and all city fire personnel are invited. So I think a list is sent to, our training coordinator sends a list to the city fire every month, and I think they send a list to the city manager as well.
You get a lot of attendance from the city fire?
No.
Dr. Wojcik, they do their training and they get their certifications and their hours. That doesn't mean that they don't get them.
No, I didn't imply that.
No, I'm not saying you are, but
Yeah.
I'm just
No, I'm
saying.
just saying that we have a lot of educational opportunities that they're invited to at every session, and occasionally one or two will attend, but for the most part, I think they're missing a good opportunity.
I believe.
That's all I got.
Any questions for Medical Director Dr. Wojcik? Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Any other council members have any discussion on this subject? Okay. We'll add that to the agenda. Moving on to the next one. Approval to apply for UCDD Arts Grant. So UCDD has a grant in the amount of up to $5,000. Could be used to help with downtown revitalization. There's no match required. Staff recommends that we approve and apply for this. And I didn't know if the city manager, if you had anything else you would add to, anything specific you're looking at this?
We're looking at sculptures for the downtown area to use in conjunction with our planters.
It's a great idea. Any questions or comments from council?
Mayor, can I go back one for a second? Back to 12?
Back to the ambulance thing?
Uh-huh.
Sure, why
I
not?
just had a question. Is this going to be on the agenda next week?
Yeah,
Okay. Are we going to know by next week how the city is going to pay for it?
I think that'd probably be a great question for the individual that would like for us to do.
I will be not only reinforcing the handout program you sent, but talking about rates for transport and treatment. Certainly want us to make application for a CDB grant next spring. It's traditionally been used for other things that we might be eligible for this. And if it comes to it, if we have to talk about some tax changes, I'm prepared to entertain that and discuss that as well. That's how important it is.
Thank you, Mark. But asking, Nathan is, I named a few options there, sales tax, property tax, on and on. I want to see something.
I think Nathan shared that if we move forward with it and do nothing, it bankrupts the city.
If
So
we move forward, he shared that we'll go, that
Well,
we'll
I mean,
bankrupt the city.
more money will be coming out than what we can, than what's coming in to cover the spread. So sales tax is already covering the rec center, which we agreed to do.
Correct.
We have some margin from that, but until we grow that, we don't have any more for us to do another, so the other option then is tax raises. I mean, that's what I got from the last two meetings, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, Nathan, so how much are you thinking on property tax increase?
Minimum 30 cents.
30 cents?
And if I can go into some reason for that, if you'd like for me to.
I would.
So I know you got some numbers during the retreat. I appreciate Chief South putting some of those together. I helped do the salaries based on the information he gave me. A few things that were not included in there, because we didn't know how we were going to do some of this, was if we were to finance the equipment in the ambulances, that's probably going to add about $390,000 to $400,000 of expense to that number. Another thing we did not take into consideration is and I'm looking at this from a whole perspective of the city. We looked at just the change in the salary rates for fire and the ambulance service. However, if we change the pay scale in that department, it will affect other departments as well. Their pay rates will have to change accordingly also. That's going to make, in the first year, probably another $500,000 difference when we have to change those scales.
So you're saying if the firefighters, paramedics has to be raised, everybody in the city would have to be raised?
I don't know about everybody, but it would affect some apartments that are in the same kind of work. So if you've got
Like, for instance?
police,
Okay, got you.
you know, their rates will probably have to change as well. The other things that I look at, I reached out to Mount Juliet because they do an ambulance service. I reached out to their finance director. I got some numbers from them. They did approximately over 3,400 calls, I think, in 2024. Transports are about 2,800, it's about 80% is what they said their average is. Their average rate for a transport is a little over $1,200. However, they only budget $1.4 million in revenue. The reason being is uncollectibles, things of that nature. Also, the billing service that we're looking at has told us kind of what breakdown we're going to have in our calls, how much is going to be paid by Medicare, how much will be paid by private insurance, commercial insurance, how much will be paid by TennCare, Veterans Association, and things of that nature. If you look at Medicare, Medicare's reimbursement for an ALS emergency call is $506. So you may charge $1,200, but Medicare only pays $506.22. That is 50 to 60% of our calls per that billing service would be based on that rate. TennCare will pay, they pay anywhere from 67.5% of what Medicare pays up to 100% match, but they could pay as little as 67% of that $500. VA pays what Medicare pays. Those two together, along with private pay, would be close to about another 30 to 40% of our revenue. Only about 10 to 12% of our breakdown would be commercial insurance. So those rates would impact what we receive. So I'm trying to take that into consideration too, based on the numbers I've been given. These are not numbers, the numbers from the billing service are given to me by Chief South. These are not numbers that I went out and tried just to make happen. I looked at Medicare's rate because that's what they said most of our stuff would be based on. So I think when you start taking into account all the different things you're adding on, you're going to end up closer to about a $1.8 million a year deficit. The first half year we have no revenue because it won't start to July 2026, but we're going to have employees and expenses starting January of 25. That's already calculated, I think, even in Chief South numbers of being about 1.5 to 1.6. So if we want to cover that, we're going to have to do something, or we're just going to have to pay that out of our savings. So that would have to be covered in some form, or we have to pay it out of a rainy day fund. Nothing's covering that first half year. So that alone is almost a 30-cent increase. Each penny increases $62,316 and some change roughly. So in order, if the council, that's one way they can do it, either that or we'll have to pay it out of the operational expenses out of our savings, which would eat through our savings pretty quickly. Per the finance director of Mount Juliet, and let me start saying this. One of my ethical obligations is to look at these things as if I was another competent CMFO. So I reached out to a financial director to see what they said, to get their perspective, their numbers. That's why I contacted Mount Juliet. She told me that their revenues cover operational expenses. They do not cover wages or personnel costs. They don't think it'll ever cover personnel costs. And that's why they only budget 1.4 million, even though they're billing over 2 million, over 3.5 million a year based on calls at $1,200. They're only budgeting 1.4. So I don't know where in the middle we'll fall. I hope that if you do this, we actually get the numbers that Dr. Fox has presented. I don't know if we will get that high. I don't have an opinion either way, other than I'm presenting you the facts that I've gotten through numbers from the billing service, which is what they do every single day. They said our average rate would be $450 of net deposit rate. I'm only basing off the information I've gotten from the billing service, which is this is what they do. They know how much you collect. They know the breakdown. They know what this is going to be. And I'm basing it off Mount Juliet, who runs a very similar service. Their population is 3 times ours. Their city size is about 5 square miles bigger. They run 4 ambulances. So it's very similar, and I know what they're budgeting. And so I'm just trying to base what I'm giving you off what I have seen from other locations and how it will impact us. Actually, with other departments, we have not talked about that.
So you
in
think
this scenario.
30 cents is a small increment, or is it every year 30 cents?
I think that may get you the first year or two, but it's going to increasingly get bigger because the deficit will grow larger with increased personnel costs, raises,
Insurance.
increased costs. The Medicare rate, for instance, has increased $10 since 2017. So they're not changing what they pay on a regular basis. That was the first change since 2017 was in 2025. So for the last 8 years, they did not change it. It was $496, now it's $506. So they're not changing that rate yearly. So I'm not sure how much the revenue would change every year. That part kind of causes me, on this side, how do we budget that when Medicare is not adjusting that rate frequently? I don't control the federal government reimbursement rates. So I think 30 cents may get you the first few years, but that deficit's going to continue to grow unless revenue continues to go up. And it goes up at a greater rate than what I anticipate or what I've seen. It'll end up having to have an increase again at some point in time after the first couple of years.
So the statement that it could possibly bankrupt the city, is that correct?
If we just sit there and pay it out of our savings will be exasperated in a few years.
I don't think anybody here wants the city to be bankrupt. So, any citizen.
I look at it like you did pretty much a pro forma. You stressed the numbers in our favor and against our favor, gave us a range. Just like when I go to open up a new clinic, I have to purchase a building, purchase equipment, and I have to hire people. I think of it the same way. And so you really need to stress the numbers not in your favor, just to be prepared for the worst case scenario. And you don't want to, in this situation, the only way to raise revenues is to get more business here, right? So sales tax, which we're doing, we're driving that. And then cut expenses or raise taxes.
Yeah. And it's hard to get more than honestly, if you're doing projections more than a couple of years out, that gets really vague because you really don't know what's going to happen in 2 years, the growth. That's why I say the 30 cents is about a 50% increase. That brings in about 1.8 million roughly in additional revenue, which I think will cover, based on the numbers I'm seeing with increased wages in other departments, the additional loan amount. If we decide to do that, about $400,000. The revenue, I think, will go down based on the Medicare reimbursement. That's several $100,000 between $650 and the 506 they pay. That's about 4,400 calls of the 5,000 would be at that rate. That's several $100,000 off there. That number just keeps growing. So I'm just trying to play that if you want to hopefully be on the safe side and look at worst case scenarios, I think you're going to have to do that increase to cover what the deficit may be. I hope it's not that large. I hope I'm wrong, but I've got to look at it that way.
Here's my thing is I think if in a perfect world, I think this is a great idea, but we know, let's say we move forward and we do this after overcoming all these obstacles of not bankrupting the city and raising taxes 30, 40 cents, whatever, is that we already know it's a losing proposition on the county side. And I can tell you, speaking with the county mayor, if we add whatever amount of ambulances that we add, the county is going to pull back from. So the argument sometimes is made is that we'll add to it. It's not gonna be. What's gonna happen is that county's gonna remove their side of the equation, and we're gonna fill that, and then you've got this conversation of double taxation on the city side, because now we're having to provide services that were provided by the county. And I don't blame the county. I mean, they're 20% underwater in regards to what they
Yes.
bring in versus what goes out the door. So it's not like we're adding to. The reality is we're just gonna replace, and now the city's gotta pay for it, so.
I will say Mount Juliet's budget this year, she sent me the numbers just for EMS. They're budgeting that EMS will have a deficit in that function of $2.6 million for Mount Juliet. So, I mean, of course, they're different. They're not us, but that's what their budget looks like. I think our revenue will be higher because we do have Medicare that'll pay more than private insurance will in a lot of instances. So, the billing company, when they sent the estimates, I think they said our range would be 1.5 million to 2.2 million in revenue, is what they estimated our range of revenue to be, which is a big gap, but that was based on their research.
I think we need to look at it from a five-year perspective and say, this is a part needs to go on our 5-year plan and figure out how do we get there versus just, like you said, just pass the bill and then we'll figure out how to pay for it. I don't think that really works well. I've not seen it work nationally, statewide. I don't think it's gonna work locally, but, I've said my comments last time. You know where I'm at on things, so.
Yes, sir.
All right, anybody else? If not, I'm ready to move on. What's on
I'd
the
like to
agenda?
ask Chief Miller a question.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I need you to make sure before you leave, you fill out a form with the city clerk for record purposes.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. I know you don't have a crystal ball or anything.
Right.
But if the city had their own ambulance service, would you still keep the same equipment that would help you concentrate more in the county to have good or better response?
Well, there's a lot of variables in that. That's obviously nothing that I could
Control.
decide on my own. County commission would decide that. I don't see how it would ever work.
You don't see what?
I don't see how it would, like Mayor Crawford said, I just don't see them pushing those out into the, removing it from the city and pushing them out. I just don't see.
Okay.
With
Could there
removing-
possibly, no crystal ball, layoffs on your part?
Yeah, I very much could see a lot of people losing their job. I mean, you would be losing, a conservative estimate, 40 to 50% of our call volume. Because the largest majority of our call volume is inside the city. And those are gonna be gone. The way we operate right now is we've got, during the day, we've got 4 ambulances inside the city. We've got 3 at Station 1 and 1 out here on Genesis Road for the north side of the county, or north side of the city. When take those out of and the way we operate now is when we get down to a certain number, say we get down to 1 truck, we call a truck from a substation to come in to the halfway point or into Station 1's area to cover, because our large majority of our call volume obviously is inside the city. That, I don't know that that's gonna happen either. If the city does this, and they get busy, the response time is gonna be worse because we're gonna be responding from Crab Orchard or Pleasant Hill, because we're not gonna be pulling those resources in because it's city and county. I don't know that that would happen. So theoretically, your response times could decrease or increase rather. That's my experience.
Okay.
As far as just to touch on a few things, I looked at our payer group today. 80% of our payer group is Medicare, TennCare, or TennCare. 80% of our payer is that. And like he said, they don't pay. You can bill as much as you want, but you can't.
So you're billing Medicare. Do you ever have to charge cash?
We do on occasion. Yeah, we do have to charge, if it's one that we know that somebody needs transport and they.
So it's not uncommon?
No. But just because you run a call does not mean that it's a billable call. Just because you say, oh, we're gonna run 5,000 calls, that's the number that I've heard. We catted around 14,000 calls, only 10,000 of those were billable.
Because refusal of
A lot of them's
care.
refusals, and a lot of them they just won't pay. Because one of the first things that Medicare will ask, if a patient can stand with assistance, they do not qualify for stretcher transport, and they're not going to pay, even on 911 calls.
So if you go to a house and they refuse treatment after you check their blood pressure and sugar, if they refuse treatment, you can't bill them?
No.
Okay.
And you can't, and that's just, I mean, like I said, just because you run the call does not mean you're going to get paid for it. Like I
Correct.
said, we catted 14,000 calls, only 10,000 of them were billable. And only 8,500 of those we received payment for. So, you know, those numbers are significant. And that's as of today. A lot of these numbers are for 2024, but I looked at our payer group today. 80% of the calls we bill are Medicare, Medicaid, or TennCare. Only, you can say, well, private pay is only 6.5% of what we receive. That's nothing. Commercial insurance is less than that, it's 5.5%. So you rely on Medicare, Medicaid, and TennCare. And TennCare is only, they've not, here in the last 2 years, first time they've increased since their inception. And it was 300, I think what they pay around 350, $400. And that's what you get. You can bill all you want, but you're only going to get, you know, when it's government subsidized, you're going to get what you get.
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you, Chief.
All right, so that's on the agenda. I think I got an approval to apply for the UCD Arts Grant. That's on the agenda. And then ratification of charter changes. So as you know, the way it works with charter change, you need to have at least 4 out of the 5 or supermajority votes to make changes. That's then sent on to the state. Speaker Sexton, our state rep, carried that legislation at the state. It went through legal. It was approved through both houses and has been brought back for a final approval. And again, it requires 4 out of the 5 council members to approve. And you can see on the charter changes from the state, it delineates exactly what that will look like in the language as well as times. Because you can see some of these will change per election cycle, some will change immediately, some will change at the different dates. And that's a part of that. I think that's, how many pages is that? The charter changes section there you got, that thing's 6 pages. So is there any questions or comments in regard to this? If not, we'll put it on the agenda for final approval, hopefully. There's not really much that we can do with it. We either approve it or don't. If we don't approve it, we got to send it back for the whole process again, so. All right, since y'all are quiet, I'll go ahead and add that to the agenda real quick before you change your mind. Moving on to number 15, approval of water treatment chemical sodium. Yep, that bid there. So,
The bid previously awarded to United Mineral and Chemical, they have formally withdrawn their bid. So the previous bid, that needs to be rescinded, and we recommend going with Dyco Company.
Okay, doesn't like we really have a choice, right?
That'll be the next bidder in line, I believe.
Okay. This keeps the water clean?
Yes,
Okay, I think it's,
it's important.
yeah. So we'll add that to the agenda. Next up, number 16, asphalt delivery for next year. Looks like we've got an award the bid and authorize the price for the contract.
For
correct?
delivery and pickup, yes, with Rogers Group,
And that-
for both of them.
Street Supervisor Kevin Music is a thumbs up on that, so good deal. I'll add that to the agenda. Next up is the asphalt pickup for next year.
Same thing,
All right, just 2 separate bids,
yes,
same
same vendor.
vendor, and Kevin gives a thumbs up on that. All right, any questions? If not, we'll add that to the agenda. Next up is approve the debt policy, number 18. This is a requirement by the comptroller, right, to have this within our, and the finance director. You're good with it?
Yes, I went back and revamped it some this year. I looked at some policies provided by MTAS, and also some other counties, looked at theirs and other cities and molded ours a little bit more, added a little bit more language to it, changed a few things that they recommend on some things to make the new one. It is better than last year's. And I would keep track of that every year to make sure they don't recommend any other changes.
Okay. Any questions for him? If not, we'll add that on the agenda. Hey, you might want to just hang on, come on up. We're going to go right into the budget. Again, this is ordinance approving next year's budget. This is only in title form only, but I think there were a couple of different areas you wanted to go over with council.
Yes, last month we did talk about the general fund. There was just a few changes made to that since last month. I spoke with the airport committee about their fly-in. They came to see me. They reduced what they anticipated their contributions to be. They also reduced their expenses, but not by as much as they were reducing their contributions, so that reduced our surplus a little bit. We also had a wage study in our budget for $15,000. That got reduced to $12,000 and some change, so that actually helped a little bit. And we did make some changes to outside agencies, removed some, reduced some others that have been discussed, and those changes are all reflected in the new general fund. Overall impact was about, I think it's maybe an $8,000 change, $6,000 change or something to their surplus we had. Other than that, there was one other change. We did increase the one that was very necessary. Speaking of fire department paramedics, Chief's out there requesting additional funds for some paramedics to go to school, from some of these employees to go to school for paramedic school next year. So we did increase his education and training by $13,500. So that was one of the biggest drops in why the surplus went down. But that was to help benefit the fire department and get some additional paramedics on staff as well. I wanted to look mainly tonight, if we can, at our water sewer budget in Catoosa. Those start on page 60, I believe.
By the way, I like this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm hoping that helps with everybody.
Almost the final form first doing this.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Your email dated May 30th with these changes that you just spoke of, was that before or after?
They are reflected in this version.
They are reflected in?
Yes.
Okay.
That was just since the last month. They're actually reflected in this version.
So your fire employee education and training at 38.5 included that 13,000?
Yes.
Addition.
It was at 25 and we increased to 13.5.
And where did you put where's the fly-in?
The fly-in is listed, it's in marketing.
Okay.
Is where it's budgeted. It has a contributions under revenue. They went from like 21,000 or 25,000 to 14. And then the marketing
I just need to know where
is on page 46. We had the expenses, we actually had it a net zero effect with $25,000 in contributions, $25,000 in expenses. The contributions went down to like 8,000 and the expenses went to 14,500. So it's about 5 lines down on that page.
I got it. Where did you put the revenue from, like Palace?
They are listed under.
Are they itemized?
Yes. So they'll be listed for those particular ones, starting on bottom of page 4 and the top of page 5. You'll see charges for services. There's concessions, palace operations, amphitheater, which we don't have now, event ticket sales, gift shop sales. All those are listed under charges for services.
Those are revenues or expenses?
Those are revenues on page 4 and the top of page 5. That's all the revenues from those particular. Any other questions before I go on? I'm ready for it. You want to?
I know you are. You hide stuff very well.
Must be the attorney in me. So looking at water sewer fund.
On 60?
On page 60, starting there. There's the summary. I will say that with the work of, again, the department heads in that one, we actually, even though the expenses only changed by they went up right around $400,000. Most of that is not really in the departments themselves. Depreciation is going to increase probably 200,000 or so. That's one of the major changes there. Another one is our Viola contract. Usually goes up around 5%. That's going to be about a $80,000 change, almost 90. So 300,000 of that change is depreciation and the contract with Viola. So the actual departments did a real good job at coming through and really trying to get some numbers for their expenses that were in line with what we think we should be. Revenue, I held pretty steady. Revenue budgeted for this year was 11.231. It's only 11.259. It only went up slightly for next year. A couple of reasons for that. One is the change I predicted or anticipate if feds drop rates again. I did lower our anticipated interest revenue by $200,000. Just know how it's impacted this year at almost 100 and some thousand, 150 this year. I anticipate if they drop again, it will have a significant impact again. So I did that. The overall water income from metered sales and water sewer, I actually reduced a little bit. Reason being is we had the drought last summer, not a lot of rain. Our water usage was pretty high from July, August, September as compared to normal. I don't know if we'll have that again, so I actually tried to reduce that a little bit, anticipating that the usage may drop if we don't have that same environmental situation. I will say that we have budgeted in the water sewer for this coming year. Let's see if we get there. Would be on page 79. That's our capital projects. We've got $1.6 million in capital projects budgeted for next year. Part of that is the Crab Orchard pump station we talked about. We have some other extensions we're doing. The thing that causes me the most worry when the water sewer budget is, as of right now, we're showing just a $12,000 surplus. We do not have a lot of room to change. If these projects are finished next year and we start depreciation on those, that's going to be a significant hit again to the water sewer budget. As you know, the state mandates we cannot have a deficit in the water sewer. The first year they get onto you, if you do it 2 years, they're going to take over your utility. We have a lot of projects that are coming out from our ARPA projects. There are going to be a substantial amount of depreciation coming up too. We're really close on what this water sewer surplus is. We did raise the rates last year 7%, trying to hedge off some of this, but we are really close on how that's going to be. I'll just kind of give you a heads up there. Anything that changes could impact us into a deficit next year for the water sewer fund. Catoosa, again, Catoosa starts on page 82. Again, the revenue there I held pretty steady. The expenses did go up some, but again, that's a little bit of depreciation. They do show a surplus of about $151,000, but they don't have near the depreciation expense that the water sewer does. They don't have the projects that the water sewer department does. So they get hit, their hit's not as hard as what you would have on the other side. But they do show that, and we do have in that budget for them is their new building out there that's being built kind of to house their equipment and stuff like that's in the budget this year. That's one of their major items. It's about $2.5 million. Any questions or anything I can answer?
Comments?
What's the asset management plan?
Tim, that's an ARPA requirement, I do believe.
It's a requirement for ARPA. It'll basically be a database of all their utilities and major components at the wastewater plant.
Just to
Thanks.
clarify, it sounds like what the issue is the depreciation coming off all these ARPA projects.
Yes.
Even though money is in there, but on the books, the depreciation, unlike it would benefit me as a business owner for tax purposes, it actually hurts us as a utility because we have to account for it, right?
Yeah, yes, and to kind of give you an idea, so far, where this kind of hurts is so far, for this fiscal year, we've almost gotten $2.2 million in reimbursement in. I can't count that to cover our expenses.
Yeah.
So even though we're getting that revenue, I have to act like it doesn't exist. So even though we may actually be a surplus, because I have to reduce that revenue, it has a major impact.
And I know you and I have talked, but I just hate to say we have to raise rates, not because we don't have money, but because we're being dictated
The
to do
requirement.
so on depreciation.
I talked with the state about the ARPA
And
depreciation.
I appreciate you doing that. But they won't say
There-
this
there's-
ARPA, because if the ARPA stuff was taken out, we'd be good.
Yeah.
We'd be really good. But we have to depreciate, either now or later, it's gonna hurt, so, and this is a separate fund, the enterprise fund is separate from the general fund, just for those of you that aren't aware. Sometimes people think it's all the same.
Yeah.
Water and sewer is a separate utility.
Right.
So,
And it's funded just by the sales from that. It doesn't come from any of our tax revenue.
Yeah.
It's funded
Water-
just from
water
water
users.
sewer sales. Yeah.
yeah, so.
So what's the danger in going negative on that?
The first year, they're going to give us a nastygram and tell us we need to fix it.
Okay.
The second year, if you do it 2 years in a row, they're going to come in and fix it for you.
So it takes away your,
But you
It takes
also,
away
you
your-
also worry about your credit ratings, that
Yeah.
would be like.
If the state has to come in, it's,
Yeah.
takes away your margin of error, so you,
yeah.
We don't wanna do that.
we don't want that to happen.
We don't want that.
No, not at all.
Not on my watch. So what is kind of your suggestion? Because we did 7% last year, hoping that we wouldn't be having this conversation we're having, but with the ARPA projects and depreciation, there's no way around it. Is this something that you foresee over the next couple of years, we just got to ride it out with some potential increases and hope we'll look up and it won't?
I
Once we
hope
get
that
through?
acts that way.
Okay.
In talking with the state, of course, we had MTS here last year who had done a water study. They recommended a certain rate increase every year of 2.5% to 3%. The state comptroller's office actually told me the same thing.
Yeah.
And because they've looked at our numbers. Last year was the first year we'd done an increase in 7 years. With what I see upcoming, I think the rates will have to have probably a 10% increase. And that sounds, 10% sounds a lot, and it is a lot to some, but let's say you're a minimal usage ratepayer inside the city limits. So I do the 2,000 for water and 2,000 for sewer. My bill would change $2.78. So when you put it in numbers, my personal bill, I live outside the city, and I have 3 kids that use hour-long showers. We use about somewhere around 9,000 gallons of water a month. My bill would change $5.
So the state actually recommends raising it a little bit each year?
Yes.
Huh.
They recommend the 2.5 to 3 every year. That's what they try to keep up with inflation and something like this happening.
Totally logical.
Yeah.
Totally logical.
What's the pump station Crab Orchard at $8.5 million?
That is the contract we just did earlier, that is that project to build the station so to pump water for the 1 million gallons a day for what is
It's
now the
ARPA
Water
grant.
Authority. That's that project. It's
ARPA
ARPA granted. It's 90% is paid by ARPA funded.
So I didn't ask you this, but I know Catoosa and the city are separate, right? But is there not a way, if they were together, it would show a surplus? And is there a way to, I'm just trying to be creative here. I'm trying to.
So if you look at our audit, they're listed as business activities and they do get merged. So together they do show a bigger surplus.
Yeah.
Trying to see what's coming down the pike. I think even with their additional, granted that gives us a bigger cushion this year, but next year we're probably going to get hit with $400,000 to $500,000 depreciation from what I'm seeing. So that's still going to be, we're still going to have a shortfall if we leave it things we are. I'm probably around $300,000+. A 10% would probably give us about 500,000 to work with. So it's going to be, even then, it's going to eat into that. And that's if we don't have more of these other big projects that we're looking at that may not finish next year. If they get finished, that depreciation is going to absolutely start eating into our surplus.
And you and I talked, the interest-bearing accounts that we have, the reason why we were able to have to raise rates for 7 years is because the interest off those was really good, and that continues to just bottom out, right? So
Yes.
do you foresee that going up? I'm just trying to figure out
I
if
think,
that'll-
well,
Probably not.
I think we may have peaked out on that based on the fact, I mean, they reduced it some this year, it went down 1% overall this year. I think that next year, if we start having the economy kind of changing some of the way they're anticipating, they could reduce rates yet again, which would have a big impact. So, I mean, the interest earnings in 23-24 were $738,000 in water sewer. This year, we're on track to hit 520. And so it's already dropped $200,000 this year. So, I mean, that's just with that percent change.
Yeah.
I
So what do you, I've heard some different numbers. What are you recommending? I'm not a big fan of death by 1,000 cuts.
No.
I don't want to be sitting here
I
every
think-
single year.
I think 10% would get us a little while down the road. Last year, you asked me that question. I'd been in this about 3 weeks when I got asked that question.
I know.
And I thought 7% would do it based on what I knew then.
It sounds like
but-
if we didn't do it, we would have been in trouble. So.
Yeah, but I think that gets us basically where we, by the state's on rate variances for 7 years, that kind of puts us at where we would need to be based on what they anticipate you need to do every year. So hopefully that'll get us a little further down the road. Maybe, with some different growth and different things, we have increased water usage, more housing coming in, more customers would help that, but.
Is there any way to, the ARPA project that Councilman Mayberry brought up that we're doing with Crab Orchard, now CPWA, that we could shift that burden over to them to where they eat the depreciation? I'm not-
I actually think they're going to own the pump when it's done. So I'm not even counting that one.
Okay, so you're not even counting that?
No.
Okay, so you already assumed that? Okay,
Yeah,
never
they're
mind.
going to be
Yeah,
actually.
I'm just trying to find ways.
Yeah, they're actually going to be the one to own that pump station. When we get done, we'll be handling that to them.
So they can deal with that.
You've got a notation on here, Peavine Genesis Highway 127 north of I-40 at 4.22.
That's the bore under the interstate, is that correct? The Peavine North I-40?
And we're hoping that'll help with capacity as well. That would be a pretty big project for helping with capacity. Yeah. Which you know that's an issue. Okay. Any other questions for anybody? I mean,
You think that'll get done in a year? Oh. That's ARPA funds too?
yeah, that's what Nathan's trying to prepare for, all this depreciation that's gonna hit us. the next-
Any other questions I can answer?
No.
Okay, so is that gonna have to be something that council needs to bring up for a
Yeah, it's
conversation?
going to have to be brought up, and if you decided to increase, it's going to have to be voted on so we can implement that.
How quickly can we? 3 votes. Is that something that has to be done before July 1st?
I would prefer it being the next budget, the final budget, so we would know kind of where we stand, which would be by July 1st. We'd like to implement them right at the beginning of the fiscal year. That way it's not a changeover mid-fiscal year to a different rate.
It won't require an ordinance, just a
No.
resolution stating the rates.
It's kind of like the same thing we did last year. We did it at,
So that needs to probably be going into other business for discussion. So can you add that? Water rate?
please and thank you. Any other questions?
So just to clarify, we'll have the ambulance thing and
Give it
other
up.
business for discussion and vote, and then we'll have the water rate. just to
Charter.
clarify. And the charter, those will be the 3
And
things.
spec
Everything-
building, spec building.
Spec building.
That won't be consent agenda?
We won't be able to present it until the meeting.
Sorry, yeah, that too,
yeah.
my bad. Thank you. Everything else that will be in the consent agenda that needs to go, correct? We good with that? Okay.
Yes.
No other questions for budgets? This will be the last time. Do you have anything else you all want to cut?
And as a reminder, we'll have to have a special call for the third
Final
reading
approval.
of the budget.
This was This is not the final approval. We have to
This
have
is
one
the
more.
second reading?
This is second reading, so we have to have one more for final
Okay.
approval.
Do you all have any times for a special call that we, since we're all here, it'd be probably what, mid to late June?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I need it before the 26th if possible.
Okay, well, this is the work session. I know it seems formal over here, but let's go ahead and figure out a time, because we can't not have a third reading of this, so.
Yeah, that would not go well.
No, that doesn't go over well.
Yeah, not on my watch. Okay, so what are we looking at?
My calendar's open to see. What about you?
You leave on the 26th?
27.
Okay.
So
I'm leaving that
what
in.
date can you not do, Art?
I'm just, end of the month. is-
Okay, heading to the
gets
Bahamas?
shaky for me.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
What about like lunchtime?
Why don't we just,
Okay. So
Lunch is a great idea.
what?
I think lunch is a great idea.
Can we do the 26th or the 24th? That's a
20
Tuesday or a Thursday at
24th
noon?
is good for me.
The 24th gives us a little more time to prepare to submit everything as well, so the 24th would work for us as well.
Let's do the 24th at noon, are you good with that? That's a Tuesday, it's a Tuesday.
That's good.
Tuesday at noon, 24th, everybody good? Mike, you good?
Would you like lunch served? Okay.
Please.
So the 24th at 12.
I don't do well with low sugar.
Yeah, I understand.
You're real mean. 24th at noon, Tuesday.
Special
Okay.
call.
Thank you, Councilman.
That's it. I think that brings us to the end of our agenda, unless there's any special things. All right. Good night, everybody. Enjoy the sunshine.
All right.